Hello and welcome to English 0365 week 7. Well, we're almost in the middle of the semester, and so by now I know all of you are used to the course. We have the midterm this week, and we're also going to be studying patterns of organization too. I think that last week was pretty light because the patterns of organization for week 1 are fairly easy and you only had one reading to do. This week you have a few more patterns, but I'm sure you have seen all of these patterns in your reading classes. I want to call your attention to the PowerPoint I have there to help you through this chapter. We're going to look at it together right now. This one here is the one I'm talking about, Relationships 2 PowerPoint. I also have the Chapter 6 PowerPoint. That is the one that you normally use from the book, but I want you to look at this one as well. Let's open it and see what we have here. Okay, so let's take a look at the different kinds of relationships that we have this week. The first one is illustration. And basically an illustration is an example or an explanation that the author uses to develop and clarify a given idea, right? And there are some words that show you that there's an illustration. So for example, for instance, including, to illustrate, one thing, once. So all of those are illustration words. And then we have here some examples, and I'm not going to read all the examples, but let's look at the second one. And obesity, as obesity becomes more common in the United States, the rates for related health problems, including diabetes among children, have soared. So here you have an illustration that helps to clarify the point. These are quite useful so when you're writing, so you can change the words that you're using and you don't use all the time, for example. Okay, so you have a definition and then you provide probably a couple of examples. Here is a paragraph with a couple of for instance and another example at the end of the sentence, just to provide variety. When reading and taking notes on a textbook, do two things. Write down the key definitions, or you can highlight or circle them, and then write down an example of the definition. That's going to help you, especially when a definition is general or abstract. It's going to help you to clarify meaning. Another one is comparison, and of course comparison words will signal similarities. Authors use a comparison transition to show that a second idea is the same as the second one, so like is the first one in some way. And here are several comparison words like as or like or alike, the same, both, equal, equally, resemble, in like fashion, in like manner, similar or similarly, in a similar fashion, in a similar manner, in the same way. All of those words will signal comparisons, and so here are some sentences. For example, both alligators and crocodiles use nerve-packed bumps in their jaws to sense the movement of nearby prey, to sense the movement. So here we're comparing how both animals are alike. And here are a couple of other sentences that will help you understand this concept. And of course, things are not always similar, but they can also be contrasted. So here are contrast words that signal a difference between two concepts. And here are examples of concept words that indicate a contrast, quite a few. And then examples in a sentence. I'm not going to be reading all the examples. I want you to do that, but I'm just pointing out the most important information here. So you have comparison when two things are alike and contrast when two things are different. And then the next pattern of organization is cause and effect. So words signal that the author is explaining the reason why something happened or the result of something happening. and we have cause and effect. You have one cause, several effect, several causes, one effect. And I skipped here cause and effect words, therefore, thus, consequently. Again, quite useful when you are writing, but also useful to know when you're reading, because when you're reading, you know, when you see these words, that they're explaining the reason for something. And we have here some examples in sentences and some more examples. Okay, so these PowerPoint, I would like you to read it yourself more carefully, but I wanted to point out that here is something that you can look at, because these patterns of organization are quite essential when you are trying to understand a reading, not only for writing like you've been taught in your writing class. The next item I want to point out is the midterm. I asked you last week to send me your preference where you want to take the midterm. A few of you did at the beginning, most of you didn't, but after I reminded you, I now know where most of you want to go, but I don't have all of you. So please let me know, because if by Monday I don't know where you want to take the test, I won't be able to send your midterm anywhere. So that would mean that you may miss the midterm. All you need to do is send me an email and tell me where you want to go. Those of you who already did it, you don't need to do it. Now, what does the midterm include? Basically, units 1 through 6. It's very important that you review paraphrases and summaries. When you did your homework last week, some of you summarized, but you didn't paraphrase. You're still having difficulties with paraphrasing, although a couple of you did very well. Some of you are still not sure how to do that. Remember, when you're paraphrasing, once again, I hate to repeat this so many times, but I do it because most of you are not doing it. You do not need to make the information shorter. You keep the same information, you just use your own style. Remember that I told you in your homework last week, just close the book and put it in your own words. Then you can open the book to see, okay, what am I missing? But that's it. Don't keep the book open, because that leads you to want to write the same words. Most of you are already doing the summaries quite well. There's also going to be annotations, so review the annotations, and then vocabulary in context, main ideas, supporting details, recognizing and writing them. You will have some short essay questions, so 3, 4, 5 sentences answering a specific question. There's also some multiple choice and maybe some short answers, but there is some questions that are going to require you to answer using your own words. Of course, patterns of organization are also included, because we studied what we studied last week and also the patterns that we are studying this week. And then briefly, I want to discuss the feedback that you gave me. I asked you if you preferred the notes like I'm doing today, or you prefer written notes. Some of you said you didn't mind either way. Most of you said you still prefer to listen to the notes, and then a couple of you told me that you like reading them. So I'm going to keep both formats. Probably I'm going to have this type of format for most of the time, but I will give you some written notes as well. Okay, well, that's all I have for today. I hope you guys have a very good week. Remember that you have the midterm at the end of the week. You can go to the testing center that you told me between Friday morning and Monday evening, anytime that you prefer. Actually, I'm going to put the test there on Thursday, so if you can't go on Friday and you prefer to go on Thursday, that's going to be fine also. So the test actually will be there starting Thursday, not Friday. Okay, that's all I have again, and have a super week.